At Falcon Tech Industries, Monday mornings usually meant looming deadlines and the frantic rhythm of coffee-fueled hustle. But this particular Monday was different. A figure, sharp in a tailored blue suit, rolled into the sleek glass lobby in a wheelchair. His calm demeanor commanded attention, yet few recognized him. This man was Robert King, the new CEO. However, he had no intention of making a grand announcement. Instead, he had chosen to observe his company from the shadows, to witness its true culture when no one knew he was watching. Meanwhile, Susan, the headstrong HR manager, strode through the office with her usual air of unshakable authority. She was not one for second chances, especially for those she deemed beneath her. Her reputation had been meticulously crafted over the years, ruthless, unyielding, the enforcer of policy with no room for empathy. As she scanned the office, her gaze fell upon the man in the wheelchair. Instantly, annoyance flickered across her face. In her meticulously managed world, he did not belong. Without hesitation, she marched toward him, her heels clicking sharply against the polished floor. Her voice, dripping with condescension, cut through the quiet hum of the lobby. "Excuse me, sir. This area is for employees only. Let me help you find the way out." Robert's expression remained unreadable, his piercing gaze fixed on her. A moment of silence stretched between them, thick with unspoken judgment. He had expected this, yet experiencing it firsthand still stung. "Actually," he said evenly, his voice carrying a quiet authority, "I'm exactly where I need to be." Susan's lips curled into a faint, dismissive smile. "I don't know how you managed to get past security, but this is a private space. You can't just—" "Susan, what are you doing?" The voice, laced with panic, cut through the tension like a knife. Emma, the regional manager, hurried toward them, her face pale as realization dawned. Unlike Susan, she knew exactly who this man was. She had been briefed on the CEO's unconventional plan, and now she was watching disaster unfold before her eyes. Susan, oblivious to her own impending downfall, responded sharply. "I'm handling an unauthorized visitor." Emma's breath hitched as she struggled to contain the damage. "That's Mr. Robert King," she whispered, her voice barely steady. "He's our new CEO." The words landed like a thunderclap. For a moment, the entire office seemed to freeze. Nearby employees halted mid-task, their eyes widening as whispers rippled through the room. All eyes were on Susan. Her confident posture wavered, her arms stiffly falling to her sides as the blood drained from her face. Humiliation clawed at her chest, the weight of her own arrogance sinking in like a heavy stone. Robert, still calm, leaned slightly forward in his wheelchair, his presence even more imposing now that the truth was out. His voice, low and razor-sharp, sliced through the suffocating silence. "It's interesting," he mused, "how people reveal their true selves when they believe no one is watching." Susan's breath hitched. Her once iron grip on authority crumbled beneath the realization that she had been exposed. Not just as an HR manager who enforced workplace policies, but as a person who judged before understanding, who dismissed before listening. Robert's gaze didn't waver. "At Falcon Tech, we value leadership, respect, and integrity," he continued, his voice unwavering. "And today I've learned a great deal about the culture we need to change." The weight of his words settled over the room. Susan felt her world tilting, the once firm ground beneath her feet turning to quicksand. She had spent years policing others, but now she was the one being held accountable. Emma, desperate to salvage the situation, cleared her throat. "Mr. King, But Robert raised a hand, silencing her with a mere gesture. His eyes remained locked on Susan. "Tell me, Susan," he said, his tone eerily calm, "do you believe in second chances?" A lump formed in her throat. For years, she had denied them to others. But now, standing in the presence of the very man she had tried to dismiss, she realized that she had never needed one more than she did in this moment. As the office held its collective breath, awaiting his verdict, Susan knew one thing for certain. She had made the biggest mistake of her career. And now, her fate lay in the hands of the man she had so carelessly underestimated. Respect isn't just a company policy. It's a fundamental necessity. And yet, Susan had forgotten that. Her hands trembled as she struggled to form a coherent response. I didn't mean, she stammered, her voice barely above a whisper, cracking under the weight of the moment. But it was already too late. A murmur swept through the office like wildfire, spreading from desk to desk as whispers grew louder. Employees exchanged stunned glances, some shaking their heads in disbelief, others watching with quiet satisfaction. The woman who had spent years wielding authority with a cold, merciless grip was now unraveling before their eyes, and there was no escaping it. Emma stood nearby, her face a mix of relief and dread. She had known this reckoning was coming. Susan's arrogance had created too many enemies, had bruised too many spirits. Yet to see it unfold so publicly was a stark reminder of just how fragile power becomes when it is built on fear instead of respect. Robert King, composed and resolute, let the tension settle before speaking again. His voice was calm, but each word carried weight. People reveal their true character when they think no one is watching, he said, his gaze steady as it held Susan in place. Respect isn't optional. It's not a favor you bestow on those you deem worthy. It's a necessity. And today, you have shown that you have forgotten that. Susan's lips parted as if to protest, but no words came. She could feel the judgment in every pair of eyes that watched her. The hushed conversations, the exchanged glances. Each one was a nail in the coffin of the authority she once wielded so effortlessly. Her mind scrambled for a way to salvage the moment, but there was none. The damage was done. Robert turned his attention to the rest of the room, his presence magnetic. This company was built on innovation, he continued, his voice resonating with conviction. But innovation is meaningless without inclusivity. If we allow discrimination, if we allow people to be dismissed because of their appearance, their abilities, or any other shallow judgment, then we have already failed. A hush fell over the office. Then slowly a single clap rang out. Then another. Within seconds, the room erupted into applause. It wasn't just politeness. It was something more. A shared sense of relief. A collective recognition that this moment was a turning point. Susan remained frozen, her world caving in around her. For years she had built a reputation as an enforcer of rules, someone who took pride in maintaining rigid control. But now, for the first time, she felt powerless. And worse, she felt seen, truly seen, not as the force of authority she had fashioned herself to be, but as a woman who had let arrogance and prejudice blind her. As the applause died down, Robert scanned the room once more. This isn't just about one person, he said. It's about all of us, who we are, how we treat each other. Every person in this building deserves respect, and every person here has the responsibility to give it. Silence settled over the crowd as employees exchanged thoughtful glances. Some nodded in agreement, others shifted in their seats, deep in reflection. A shift was happening, subtle, yet undeniable. And Susan? She stood near the corner, a shadow of the woman who had walked into the office that morning, head held high, wielding power with an iron grip. Now, her shoulders slumped, her confidence shattered, her arrogance reduced to quiet regret. She had spent years tearing people down, dismissing their worth, and now she found herself on the receiving end of that same dismissal. The weight of her own actions pressed heavily upon her, suffocating. But regret, she realized, came too late. There was no undoing what had been done, no erasing the humiliation, the shame. Power built on the belittling of others always crumbled under its own weight. As Robert wheeled himself out of the meeting room, a ripple of change followed in his wake. Emma straightened her posture, feeling a newfound determination to lead with empathy rather than fear. Employees, inspired by his words, carried a renewed energy as they returned to their desks. Falcon Tech had long been a leader in innovation, but today it had taken the first step toward being a leader in integrity as well. Later that evening, as the office lights dimmed and employees packed up for the day, Robert remained in his office, reflecting on the day's events. He had sent a clear message, but his work was far from over. True change didn't happen in a single moment. It was built in the quiet, consistent choices made every single day. This wasn't just a lesson for Falcon Tech. It was a reminder to everyone to stand up against prejudice, to recognize that dignity is not a privilege reserved for the few, but a right belonging to all. So now, to you. If you've ever witnessed or experienced a moment when justice prevailed, share your story, because the more we speak, the more we listen, the more we learn, the more we change.